All right, welcome back to Tech, Tesla, and Trends. Let's see. Multi-dimensional chess. That's what I think the conversation will be tonight or morning or wherever you happen to be. In this case, multi-planetary economy. Why would I bring that up? Because that happens to be what Elon Musk tosses out as one of his major goals is to make human life multiplanetary. And also the whole expansion of the economy, or what is an economy, having no functional limits to that, which could be very interesting to investigate, and we will have an episode or two on that. So the next item that kind of comes into this is I have this theory that Elon Musk is, and some of you have probably heard something similar, but I believe it's a lot more than just four-dimensional chess. This is a multi-dimensional chess that Elon is utilizing here. And it really comes down to the first one of his dimensions is how he envisions things. His vision is a key component. That multi-planetary sustainable income or economy is a big aspect of that. You know, that vision of electric cars on Mars type of a vision. It's not something that you are going to accomplish in one day. It's not something you're going to accomplish in a quarter. It's not something that gets accomplished in 1 year. This is something that is decades long in view and in vision. And it makes a huge difference in how you make decisions. And that focus and use of time as an innovating opportunity. And well, if you think about that, as time continues, there is a factor of innovation that is part of that clock as history marches on. Innovation is always occurring, especially if you're in Tesla. That's Tesla, SpaceX, Boring Company, all of Neuralink, all of that. They're pushing the edges of where things are at. So innovation is one of those key watchwords. The next dimension that I believe is really important to understand when you're thinking about how Elon operates is partially related to that time horizon, and that's how his decision making works is very long term. These are not things that are next quarter. The analysts that are looking at Tesla with a quarterly earnings report, they are so missing the boat. They will continue to completely underestimate Tesla and fail to comprehend exactly what it is. They will never get it. And when you have that long-term focus, anything that isn't leading towards that particular goal is going to need rapid iteration. And that is another one of those principles that is very key in how Elon operates and how he encourages his companies to operate, is rapid iteration of processes and other components. And it's just a critical item to plug into your brain if you're trying to understand what's going on in that whole multidimensional component of how he thinks and operates. The next component of that multidimensional is time. And this one you kind of have to think about. But the first thing is when you start in electric cars, or when he was starting with making an internet search map integration, there wasn't such a thing. This is something you start now and you start to build out. And that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that sometimes when you begin a project, the end does not have a really clear how you're going to checkpoint that. But if you're expending your capital in a constructive way, you're going to have the ability to grow into that solution over time. And that innovation is part of that success formula that is critical to how Tesla operates, and how Elon operates as well, from what I've observed. Then there's a component of that time that is really important to factor in, and that is that there's no quitting. You're just going to plow through, unless, and this is important, unless it is fundamentally flawed. And that gets into one of the later dimensions that I've got there, which gets into first principles thinking, but we'll cover that later. As it really comes down to it, though, that understanding that never give up unless it's fundamentally flawed, you recognize that you're going to keep coming at it from different angles and innovating as you come along. So if you're using 3 bolts now and you come up with a way that, oh, well, we can do that with 2 bolts, or we can do that with a single rivet, or whatever it might be, that innovative process is part of how things operate. And that takes us down to that first principles part, which is part of reasoning. And that's the dimension that matters very, very, it's important to how things operate. That first principle is reasoning. Start at the bottom. Start with the basic building blocks, and then logically think your way through each of the next steps. How does that atom interact with the next atom? How does that chemical bond interact with the next, and so on and so forth, until you're dealing with a Cybertruck. And that's part of the whole process. It's a logical step by step by step. And the other item that I feel it fits into this reasoning component of the multidimensional chess that's occurring is a bias awareness. And there's well over 50 biases that Elon has suggested that it's important for your children or for you to teach your children to recognize and to avoid. Suffice it to say, that's a topic in and of itself to cover, and I'm quite certain that particular one will come up at a later date. The next dimension that is important to keep in mind is resources. That is a dimensional perspective that Elon really handles differently than a lot of others. People matter, but it's not just any old person off the street. He is absolutely looking for those that can hit the nail on the head, who have done. This is important. People who have done things are who he's looking to bring in to work with. He's also looking for people who are able to logically think through that process. And again, each of these multidimensional components I see as items he's looking for in others. And it's, as you think about it, you can clearly see the people he surrounds himself have aspects of this, either in large numbers or at least a strong subset of these already existing in how they interact for the tasks that he has in mind for them. The other item that plays into that resources aspect is supply chains. And when it comes down to it, being aware that lithium is a massive item, a major component to lithium batteries, it's a no-brainer, right? But do you have the forethought to go out and acquire those, to acquire that particular resource a decade in advance, beyond what your competitors are currently doing? That is foresight into how you are interacting with the world around you. And it is particularly important to recognize that when you are interacting in that dimension from a time perspective and from a reasoning perspective, and then those decisions that go into that, you walk down that dimensionality of it, and each checkpoint brings you to the point where we need a long-term contract for lithium, or for we may have to mine lithium or create a processing of lithium, and or a processing plant for lithium. And you just walk down that piece by piece in that whole this logic tree here of, and it's each dimension leads you to the next checkpoint in how Elon is thinking about and processing at a speed that most of us are not going to ever comprehend. Those are the first 5 dimensions that I'm going to discuss tonight, or bring out. There are 5 more that I've got off the top of my head, and I'll bring those up in the next video, and we'll talk to you at that point, and we'll talk to you then. Have a good night.